So let's turn now to Niger, where a key Western ally has been overthrown in a coup. Its former colonial ruler, France, has said it will not recognize the leaders of the putsch and that it still considers deposed President Mohamed Bazoum the sole leader. General Abdourahmane Tchiani, who led the revolt, has named himself president of a new transitional council.
In the latest move by Niger's military coup leaders, an announcement on state TV to suspend the constitution.
The institutions created by the November 25, 2010 constitution are dissolved.
The man who led the mutiny appealed for support and warned against foreign intervention.
The action of the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Country is motivated by the sole desire to preserve our beloved homeland. On the one hand, in the face of the continuous deterioration of the security situation, and this without the authorities letting us glimpse a real solution to the crisis: poor economic and social government.
General Tchiani has overseen the presidential guards and influenced the military for years. While the army has declared Tchiani as the new head of state, the ousted President Mohamed Bazoum is still being held. The coup has triggered a wave of unrest in the capital Niamey, with mixed opinions about what could follow.
We can only call on God's help to bring peace so things can return to order, so the country can do better. That's all we're asking. Before, we were really suffering. Now, after the coup, the situation will completely change in Niger.
Internationally, condemnation is growing from world leaders, including the UN and African Union.
France condemns, in the strongest possible terms, this military coup against a courageous, democratically elected leader.
In this moment of strife, we implore all parties to engage in constructive discourse to restore peace in this fraternal nation.
Niger has seen several military coups and faced years of political and economic instability. A key ally of the West, it's been at the forefront in the fight against armed actors in the Sahel. Concerns are increasing about the wider security implications and whether unrest will spill beyond Niger's borders.
And I'm very pleased to welcome Joseph Siegel from the Africa Center for Strategic Studies in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us. As the dust starts to settle, is it now clear that General Abdourahmane Tchiani is in control in Niger?
Well, no, it isn't clear. He certainly has declared himself as the head of state and the leader of the military junta there. But it isn't clear that there is any popular support for this move. It isn't even clear that the rest of the military is on board. And there's been a very strong condemnation of the coup from within the region by ECOWAS, the West Africa Regional Bloc, the African Union, and many other international actors. So there's a long wait before he can consolidate this power grab.
And now Niger under President Mohamed Bazoum had become one of the most important strategic allies for both the U.S. and for its former colonial power, France. What reaction have we seen from them to this coup?
Well, both France, the United States, and the United Nations and others have condemned the coup. And, you know, I think more broadly, we need to keep in mind that President Bazoum was democratically elected 2 years ago. He won 56% of the vote. He had been the first president in Niger who had succeeded another civilian president. So it had been about 10 years since we'd had a democratic civilian government in Niger. And so it was quite a big deal that we were starting to see a budding democracy in Niger.
Yeah, and now we're seeing this take hold. If Bazoum is not reinstated, do you think that what have been allies like France and the United States, will they continue to work with the coup leaders in Niger?
Well, it's too soon to say, and we'll have to see. But the statements from international community and from democratic actors have been very clear that they don't recognize the junta, and that they recognize that this is a problem because we're seeing a pattern of military actors seizing power across the Sahel and in Africa more generally. And if the trend isn't stopped, if there isn't a red line drawn, we're going to see more of these military juntas. I think what's notable in all of these coups, but especially notable in Niger, is that the reasons given for the coup are extremely hollow. Niger has done a relatively good job in dealing with its security challenges. It doesn't have anywhere near the same threats that we're seeing in Mali and Burkina Faso. Economically, the country has been growing. It was on track for 7.5% growth this year. The World Bank is projecting it's going to be 12.5% next year. So, the rationale for this is really lacking, and one can't help but conclude this is just a power grab for power's sake.
Well, what does this tell us about what lies ahead for Niger? Do you think that it, like Mali and the Central African Republic, is going to drift toward Russia now?
Again, it's too early to say. There haven't been close ties between Russia and Niger over the years. The announcement by the junta leaders suggests that they want to retain, all the ties that they've had with Western countries, with various donors. They just want to be in charge. And so initial sense is no, there isn't an effort to reach out to Russia. Now, that's not to say that Russia isn't going to try to opportunistically use this as a wedge and try to, gain influence as they have in other countries. Russia has certainly actively used disinformation over the past year to try to stir up dissent within Niger, and through the Wagner Group, led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, they have hinted at other coups that were in the works in Niger. So they've certainly been playing the role of troublemaker, but we'll have to see where it would go moving forward.
Yeah, that's a fascinating element of it. That's all we have time for, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for joining us on DW. That is Joseph Siegel joining from Washington, D.C.
My pleasure. Thank you.